Well, welcome to another edition of More Bad News, brought to you as always by Camel Cigarettes. Take the Camel's Challenge, smoke Camels for 30 days and see for yourself what a difference Camels can make, not only for your smoking pleasure, but if you think back to the time when everyone knew that Camels was good for you, that more doctors smoked Camels, when Camels was the most popular cigarette in America. The United States was the greatest nation on the face of the earth. We had a booming economy, and we were the number one power on the planet. Then we gave up tobacco, the product that was emblematic of our greatness. Is it any wonder that we have collapsed into this horrible situation? If you want to really make America great again, I believe there's nothing more that you can do than to take the Camel's Challenge and smoke Camels for 30 days and see what this product can do, not only for you, but for our nation. Make America great again. Take the Camel's Challenge. Why not? It makes as much sense as anything. Anyway, it's been a dreadful week for me personally. As I think last week on Monday we took Bella in for euthanasia. God, I feel like a Nazi. You just see, yeah. You're playing God and taking the animal's life. It's a compassionate thing to do. You just don't want to let her continue to suffer. We waited as long as we could, but then they cremate. It's communal cremation where you don't want to have the ashes back. So they just throw all the animals into a big pile and they cremate all the animals together. But it's the hole, the emptiness. She's gone, and so much. She was a real pain in the ass. I mean, in the end, she was taking pills. She was sick. She was in pain. She kept us up at night. But she's gone, and it's just a giant hole. And it's more intense because I'm 76. This was my birthday, by the way, also. I was celebrating my birthday. My brother was in the hospital, and he was dreadfully ill, and my dog died, and it just I tell you, it was a depressing week. And one of the things that I said about this was that this is the last dog that I'm ever going to have. And not only that, but our life now, I've spoken about this too, in terms of, I know that people don't believe what's happening is happening, but I do. For me, this is the end, and for Karen and I, we don't go anywhere. This is permanent. It's not going to get better. The pandemic is not going to go away. We will never again have people in our house the way we used to have when we would have parties, and for Passover we would have friends and we'd have a table full of people. That's not going to ever happen again. We're never again going to go to a movie theater or to a restaurant. That's never going to happen again. Our life has really been constricted, and so to lose Bella is a big loss. It's like in my family, worrying about my brother. It's like my parents had 6 boys, live births. There were 2 pregnancies that didn't come to term, but I had 5 brothers, so there were 6 of us, and my parents 8, and now we're down to 4. My parents are gone, 2 of my brothers are gone, and what happens is, as these circles get smaller and smaller, each loss becomes bigger and bigger. It's a bigger loss. And in Judaism, it's you are taking, when you bury a close relative, you step up to the grave, that and you stare down into the pit that you will enter before too long. And each time you step up to that pit, you're getting closer and closer to the pit, to your end. And so one of the things that, I've talked about is like being able to face death, and it's not just that I will die, or that all of us will die, is that, it's all going to come to an end, and very soon. So that all the music and all the art and all the culture and all the monuments that we have ever created, they're all going to be lost. And it's um, it's pretty depressing, what we have done. I was looking back at the most devastating extinction that the Earth has experienced was 250 million years ago, the Great Dying end Permian extinction, where 97 to 98% of all the species on the planet were destroyed. That extinction took over 1 million years from beginning to end. And I realized that the extinction that we're in right now will also last for 1 million years. Not for us, we're going to be gone, but the consequences of the things that we have set in motion will play out for hundreds of thousands of years until the planet actually settles down to a new stability. But it'll be far beyond, we'll be gone, and there'll be no memory of us anymore. So what we're facing really is the end of all existence for us. And that's what we need to be facing. So it's the issue of being forgotten. You're going to be forgotten. So here I am in my channel, and I've noticed that my audience is declining, not increasing, because this is not a great show. Really. I mean, I understand my audience is going to be declining, and I'm not looking for a viral audience. I'm not, I'm recording this the way I do my diary. It's me trying to leave some crumbs behind for myself primarily. I often go back into my archives and look at things that I've recorded from decades and generations earlier. So this week, talk about more bad news, and there was the personal bad news, but in the news there was the news of the bank failures, SVP, this Silicon Valley Bank. It was a third largest, fifth largest, I don't know what it largest, but it was a big bank, and it went under. And immediately the president came and said, nothing to worry about, really nothing to worry about. And so I thought, that maybe what I would do is first share my screen. Right, and then let's start here. So the panic of 1819. Now, originally, everybody's called the Great Depression, and we're worried about recessions and depressions, but originally they called them panics. And the first one was in 1819. I want you to understand that that capitalism, really in 1776, Adam Smith wrote a book called The Wealth of Nations, which really described the emergence of a new system, economic system. So we had, in the American Revolution, a political system that emerged out of the American Revolution, Republican systems. And then there was an economic system, and that was capitalism. And with the emergence of the capitalist system, this phenomenon of panics emerged. And so the first one we had was in 1819, and then there was another one in 1837, and another one in 1857, and another one in 1873, and another one in 1907. And then, of course, that there was the Great Depression in 1929. So let me just describe these. The capitalist system was born in the American Revolution, 1776, is also the emergence of this system, but it was tiny. It was just like a little infant thing. And so every generation, every 30 years or so, there's this collapse of the system. Everything's going along really well, and and then suddenly there's this panic. Everything seems to collapse. Nobody knows why or how to fix it. And then you pick up the pieces and you move along, and another generation collapses again, another generation collapses again. But each time it collapses, the collapse is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Not hard to understand because the system is getting bigger. So, when you have, boats that sink, and what you have is a rowboat, that's a little boat, and that sinks, that's a little sink. And then you have the Titanic, that's a giant boat, and that is a much more massive catastrophe when it sinks. And that's what's happening here. The ship, the capitalist system, is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's encompassing more people. In 1819, 98% of all Americans were farmers. So, if you have if the stock market crashes, so what? I mean, most people wouldn't even notice. But in 1870, 1890, where people are living in cities and working in industry, and there's a collapse, then people are homeless and they have nothing, and you really notice the difference, and its impact is greater. By 1929, it's a global, and the 1929 depression was not an American depression. It was as all of these were actually, global world depressions. It's a global system, and the global system collapses. And so, I also taught American history. Oh, and I put up here the Panic of 1893. I missed that one. So here's an article that I used in my class. It was on the banking crisis of the 1990s. Now, so yeah, I've been around for a while. This was the savings and loans banking crisis, and all these crises result from deregulation. What you had was savings and loan banks don't exist anymore, but they used to be little banks that were designed to provide mortgages for a local community, so you could go out and buy yourself a house and get a mortgage from your local savings and loan bank. The savings and loan bank existed to give mortgages, and they were highly regulated, so that they all gave the same amount of interest on your deposits. There was no competition between them. And then during the 90s, the Reagan administration did away with all the regulations. And so the savings and loans banks wanted to make greater profits. So they, instead of investing in mortgages, they invested in a fast horse at the racetrack, or they invested in junk bonds. They invested in things that would give them greater risk and greater profits. And lo and behold, the whole thing collapsed, and you have dozens and dozens of banks began to fail in the 1990s. It was a tremendous crisis. And then of course, we had the ultimate one, which was the 2008. And this is a wonderful book on the first principles of Islamic economics. And it has nothing to do with Islam. It's just this very compassionate look at economics in terms of how it affects people. So, the world, this had starts. The world today is in the grip of this is 2008, a devastating and protracted economic financial crisis. When haven't we been? And so he compares this: the fall of the Berlin Wall was like the end of 70 years of communism, and the 2008 collapse was like the end of market fundamentalism, except it really wasn't. Market fundamentalism is this belief that you have to allow the markets to operate without regulation. Any kind of regulation is going to be bad. And of course, what ends up, regulation is not bad. It keeps people from stealing and from being crooks. When the 2008 collapse happened, over 1 billion people were thrown into poverty, 20 million people in sub-Saharan Africa, 53 million people globally descended into extreme poverty. I mean, there's millions and millions and millions of people were affected by this, and it took over a decade to climb out of it. And here we are in 2023. And so my message to you is what Joe Biden said: there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing new about this problem. We have been in this state of financial collapse ever since the capitalist system emerged, and it's getting larger and larger. Each collapse is bigger than the one before. So you can expect that this collapse is going to be greater than the ones that we've had before, especially coming on top of the fact that the global ecology is also completely collapsing. So with that, I, I try to keep a smile on my face, and I'm trying to figure out week by week, how do we move forward? I mean, how do you remain sane when you're watching your a mass extinction event that your species is responsible for, has caused, and there is no future, but you don't want people to fall into despair. I mean, it's been a tough week for me, but we got to keep going. It's not going to get any better. This is one of the messages that I've consistently said, is that it's more bad news is what we have to look forward to, and we better get used to that and toughen up. We're going to have to be really tough to face the crises that are going to confront us, and we have to do everything we can to ameliorate suffering. So my advice is, take the Camel's challenge. Smoke camels for 30 days and see for yourself if this couldn't fix our problems. I'll see you next week. Have a good week.